Dear students, welcome to Pre-Intermediate Arabic or Arabic 2602, which is your next, which is the module that follows from ARB2602. And many of you have had experience with our online format, and this module as well is purely online. I just want to make a couple of notes before we go into lesson 1, and that is that the most important note is that if you read the introduction, please ignore this note about the textbook. When this module was offered previously, it was offered with a textbook that students needed to also use, but we don't need that anymore. Because we use Medina Arabic, as you did it with 1501, you don't need that textbook. So just kindly ignore that and ignore the section on the companion website. Of course, you're welcome to buy this textbook if you wish. It will, of course, enhance your Arabic studies. It's quite a good textbook, but it's really not compulsory. In this module, we focus particularly on Arabic verbs. Previously in ARB 1501, in your first module of Arabic, you focused on basic constructions, on nouns, but in this module we focus particularly on verbs, and you will find that there are a lot of tables involved, but please, it mustn't appear daunting to you. They all follow a logical pattern, and once you master these tables, they will make your Arabic journey very smooth, hopefully. So this study guide, except for the part on these textbook unit notes that you'll find in every unit, you can ignore those, but basically it's structured very much as the previous study guide on ARB 1501. So let's start immediately with lesson 1. And lesson 1 is an introduction to the verb. Now, a verb shows the action that occurs in a sentence. It's the doing word, as they commonly say. He attended the meeting. Attended here is the action that is being done. So that's the verb. Now, the simplest form of the verb in Arabic is the form called kataba, which is he wrote. Of course, there are variations of this form, as we will see. We can say, for example, fataha. Fataha means he opened, and so on. But the form here is, by the simplest form of the verb, we mean it's composed of 3 letters: the ka, the ta, and the ba. And so this is called the third person masculine singular of the past. While the past, he wrote. He's not writing now, he wrote. Why masculine? Because there's nothing additional to it that makes it feminine, so it's masculine. And there's also nothing additional to it that makes it plural, so it's singular. So this is the masculine singular third person. Third person because it refers to he, not to I, which is the first person, not to you, which is the second person, but it refers to he, and that's the third person. So that is the basic structure of the verb in Arabic. And then now we can start playing around with this verb. We can add this letter here, ta, to it, and it becomes katabat, as you can see here. When it becomes katabat, it becomes she wrote. So this addition of this ta makes it she wrote instead of he wrote. So it becomes katabat. It was kataba, he wrote, and now it's katabat. she wrote. Interestingly enough, though, when we say, for example, she wrote, for example, she wrote the book, so that would be كتبت الكتابة. Okay, she wrote the book, but this ta with a sukoon, okay, purely for the sake of sound, gets changed to a I there. It becomes katabatil kitaba. She wrote the book, but not katabat al-kitaba, katabatil al-kitaba. But saying katabat al-kitaba is not wrong. But simply for the sake of sound in sentences, people say katabatil kitaba. And this E here is doing nothing in terms of grammar. It's purely for the sake of sound. Grammatically, this is katabat. Okay, grammatically, this is katabat. The E is just there for euphony or for sound purposes, to make it smoother sounding. Okay, so we added the ta there, and we found the kataba became she wrote. The he wrote became she wrote. We can also add an u there, this wow and this alif, and it becomes now katabu, and the meaning changes to they wrote, males. Okay, they wrote. And you will find, when you go to the end of the short study unit, you will find various ways in which you can add katabna. You added the noon and the alif, and becomes we wrote. Or you can say katabtuma, you added this tu and the ma, yeah, that's tu and the ma, and it becomes you wrote, and so on. And you know, these are things that you learn via practice and experience. But coming back, there are a couple of golden rules we must remember when dealing with the Arabic verb. The first golden rule, and this is very important, is that when the verb is in the third person, in other words, if it refers to a he or she or they, to a third person, particularly a he or she, it must stay singular even though its subject is plural. Now, this seems a bit complicated to understand, and it takes a bit getting used to, but for example, let's give an example here to show you. When you say the word, when you say the sentence كتب المعلمون, now كتب المعلمون means they wrote. Now you might ask, why isn't it كتبوا المعلمون? Because the waw and alif there means that the word, you know, it makes it plural. This is just a rule of Arabic, that the verb, when it's first in a sentence, okay, the third person verb, remember here you're referring to a male or female, that's in the third person, a he or she, not a we, or not an I, or you know, or you. When it refers to a third person, it becomes it must remain singular, even though its subject, the teachers here, is plural. So كتب المعلمون, it's not كتبوا المعلمون, it's كتب المعلمون. So المعلمون here refers to male teachers, and so, but similarly the rule applies if you want to speak about female teachers. We said katabat means she wrote, and of course we added that e there for sound when you join it up, we know, with a following word that starts with an al, but grammatically it's katabat. But now this is technically she wrote, but it's referring to plurals here. Al-mu'allimat, the teachers, the female teachers. But it remains singular. It doesn't become a katabna al-mu'allimat. As you can see, as you will see in the table, you'll see here in the table, if you just go further down, katabna, okay, refers to plural. They wrote for females, katabna. But when you go back to this example, you will find that you don't have katabna, you have katabat al-mu'allimat, even though it refers to females. And the same principle applies here as it applied to the case of the male teachers. You use a singular verb, even though the subject of the sentence is plural. As I said, it takes a bit of getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's quite easy to grasp and to apply. So remember here that katabat must be female because al-mu'allimat is female. She wrote, even though it remains singular, even though its subject is plural, but the gender must change. It can't be kataba al-mu'allimat because kataba refers to a male, he wrote, and al-mu'allimat refers to a female. So, that doesn't work. You've got to change it and add the ta marbuta, add the ta to make it female. Okay, this applies to when the verb is before the noun, and this is very common in Arabic. You'll find this all the time, that normally in Arabic verbs start the sentence. Golden rule 2 says that when the verb comes after the subject, okay, that means when the subject has already been mentioned, then the verb becomes plural, okay, when it's mentioned after the subject. For example, say katab al-mu'allimun. Let's take this construction here. Katab al-mu'allimun means the teachers wrote. Now, going to golden rule 1, we find that al-mu'allimun, is plural, the teachers, but golden rule 1 says that when the verb comes before the subject of the sentence, then it must be singular. And so that's why we say katabal mu'allimun. We can't say katabul mu'allimun, okay? It must be singular, so it's katabal mu'allimuna. The teachers wrote. But this is, let's go on here. وَبَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, and after that, ذَهَبُوا إِلَى السُّوقِ, and after that, they went. ذَهَبُوا إِلَى السُّوقِ, they went to the market. Here it says here, ذَهَبُوا, because it's plural, it can't be ذَهَبَ, which is singular. It must be ذَهَبُوا because mu'allimuna has already been mentioned here. Okay, ذَهَبُوا has already been mentioned. The teachers have already been mentioned. So ذَهَبَ, which means he went, becomes they went. ذَهَبُوا إِلَى السُّوقِ. So this is golden rule 2, that when the noun is already mentioned, mu'allimun already mentioned, then the following verb must agree with it in number. This is plural, so this must also be plural, and of course in gender as well. Okay, you can't say ذهبت إلى السوق or ذهبنا إلى السوق. That refers to females. It must agree with it. Okay, so as you can see, the verb in the past tense has a variety of endings, and these just need to be kind of learned, and you learn it, initially by memorizing it. It's good to know, but with you actually memorize it better once you start practicing your sentences and so on. So, for example, you have katabtu, which means, remember the variation is kataba, he wrote. That's the basic structure. So when you vary it, you start having katabtu, I wrote. Okay. Katabta, you wrote. That's for male. Katabti, you wrote, referring to female. Kataba, and that's the basic one, he wrote. Katabta, she wrote. Okay. Kataba, and then you have dual. Kataba, they wrote. That's they too wrote, in other words. Okay. And that refers to a male. Katabata, they too wrote, referring to females. Don't worry too much about duals. Okay, this really comes up in actual Arabic. It's useful to know, but at this stage don't worry too much about it. Katabtuma, you wrote, referring to two, and so on. But here the plurals are important. Katabna, we wrote. Plurals, here plural in this sense means, in Arabic, as you know, 3 or more. So katabna, we wrote. Katabu, they wrote. Katabna, they wrote for female. Okay, katabu, they wrote for male. Katabtum, you wrote. Again, this is plural, referring to males. Katabtunna, you wrote, plural, referring to females. So I would also urge you, and if you've got this book by Hayuddin Ahmed, to reinforce what you've learned through that particular book. And it's available quite cheaply, and you can study chapter 12 of that book in order to support this particular lesson that you've learned from the study guide. So till next time, thank you.